So welcome to episode 30 of Level Up, 60 minutes of live Q&A, where your questions and votes drive the show. Slido link in the chat allows you to vote up the questions that you would like answered. And of course, add your own in real time for the panel to be able to listen to and respond to. Today, we're talking all about projects. First of all, the management of change within projects and also the management of the projects themselves. In particular, we're going to have a look at the key role of the business analyst and how they really work within an agile environment. Business analysts do earn more money in many countries these days, but do they really have more fun? Or is it one of those roles where you're caught between a rock and a hard place, so to speak? So look, helping us find out are our panel for today. Let's jump straight in and meet them. Lauran Anderson returns. She's a senior project manager and trainer at Talk IT and a regular contributor now to Level Up. So welcome back, Lauran.
Hi, Nick. Thank you so much. Really excited to be speaking about a role that I believe you really underestimated.
Absolutely true. So we'll look forward to exploring that a little bit further. New to the panel this week is Tumpa Sen. Tumpa is a practicing business analyst. She's working with the Special Broadcasting Service in Australia. She enjoys working with dynamic colleagues within the media industry. She holds an MBA IT and also the Agile BA practitioner qualification from APMG. So welcome, Tumpa. Great to see you.
Hi, Nick. Thank you again for inviting me today. I have, like you mentioned, I have 13 years of experience in business analysis and across different verticals, but specializing in media for last 8 years now. Hope to contribute in answering some of the questions related to the business analysis field today.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. I'm sure that you will do. Jeroen Geurtsen joins us again today, another regular contributor. He combines his experience of consulting, leading projects with coaching and training to deliver real-world learning to his clients. So great to see you again, Jeroen. Welcome back.
Thanks, Nick, and thanks, others. Good to see each other again, and good to be in this panel, and hope we can change the world and make it better. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Johann Botha rejoins. He's becoming part of the furniture, really. Johann, so great to see you again. Thank you very much indeed. Johann's got an exciting development that he's working on at the moment, building a new Agile community around his experience of leading Agile change across multiple clients. So welcome back, Johann. Great to have you.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. And Bikram Routray is an independent training consultant. He has experience of working across a wide range of industries as well. He holds certifications in practice framework, change management, agile project management, and agile business analysis as well. So Bikram, very much welcome, warm welcome to you. Great to see you back on the panel.
Thank you, Nick. Love to be here, and I can see some of those repetitive faces like Aaron and Lauran we had. So looking forward to it. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. The community is really starting to build now, kind of around Level Up. So that's a really lovely thing to see as people join, and then they kind of come back, and everybody helps everybody else out. And that's really the whole approach that we're trying to get to. So if you're watching this and you feel that you could answer some of the questions, please just volunteer in the chat. One of our colleagues will pick that up and we'll be in touch to welcome you to a future panel. Completing our panel for today is Suchitra. She is our question master for today, and she joins us from Bangalore in India. So welcome, Suchitra, and may we have the first question, please.
Hi, everyone. We have a question from Shane in Washington, USA. Our company seems to have Agile Fever and are trying to make every project fit into Agile way of working. Does Agile work for every type of project?
Okay, let's get this started. So Jeroen first and then Johann.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are projects which have such strong dependencies that you need to make a very good pre-design. For instance, the Berlin airport is one of the things that is not successful waterfall, but would never be Agile.
Okay. It's a good example to use. Large infrastructure. Excellent. Thank you very much, Jeroen, and then Lauran.
Yeah, I would concur. You can do any project in an agile manner, but sometimes it doesn't really make a difference or helps. So my example is always a bridge. But we can use some of the lessons that we've learned in the agile environment when we do projects like that.
I think that is really important. Lauran, what are your thoughts?
I agree with both the previous speakers, and would just like to add that definitely I agree that not every project can be run agile, but agile has some amazing practices that you can use in almost every project. So even if you aren't going agile, maybe incorporate a daily stand-up or one of those techniques that actually work so well in agile.
Yeah, thank you very much. Blending the different methodologies together is a really good idea. And particularly thinking about it from an overall engagement perspective. You can use agile techniques in a whole variety of different ways. It doesn't have to be in just in the thinking about how do you produce the material deliverables for the project. It can also be in how you engage stakeholders, how you think about the impacted communities and so on. So really good question to get us going with. So thank you very much for that. Suchitra, let's move on and we'll take the next question, please.
Question from Renee in Amsterdam, Netherlands. We are transitioning from a waterfall methodology into an agile environment. How can we smoothly make this change? We're facing a lot of resistance from different departments.
Johann?
I think the most important thing is don't start with a method. This is really about a mindset. And people need to realize that the management, the leadership in the organization is actually bought into doing something in a different way. So there's a lot of preparing of the ground that needs to happen. Just learning to do stand-ups and have Kanban boards doesn't make you agile.
Good point. Thank you. Bikram?
That's a very good question. And I believe we can relate it to the previous question what we had. And I'll bring in Aaron's example of Berlin airport, probably. Whether we want to bring in from a waterfall to a direct agile environment, definitely there'll be resistance. But I think what my previous counterpart said, it is all about the mindset that needs to be changed, and just bringing in just a tool or something that is not going to help. When I'm saying mindset, from every corner of this organization, you need to have that mindset. For example, the top leaders, if they had bought into this mindset, nothing like that. And in my previous ones, even I have spoken about the blessings from the top. That is something that is needed. And once you have that mindset, you do have that methodology in place, then it will be a smooth ride.
Thank you very much. And your thoughts, Tumpa?
Thanks for all the answers. And I think I would like to add, I guess most people are just a little scared when they hear all these different terminologies like agile or waterfall. But I believe in terms of making people adapt to new, like to that agile methodology, the best way is to probably just start with some waterfall techniques, like, for example, have some of the requirement gathering sessions right in the beginning and not right in the agile way where we do chunks of requirement gatherings in different scrums or different sprints, and then have a little bit of confidence from the business that they are going in the right direction in terms of the project, and then slowly bring in the agile the agile ceremonies, like have daily sprints, daily stand-ups where they will get much more used to the agile way of working. And then, rather than making them give deliveries in shorter sprints, it's probably good to just transition slowly.
I think that you're right there. It's about giving people, colleagues, confidence, in the tools and techniques that make up the, agile way of thinking. So, what are some of those confidence building activities that colleagues on the panel have actually used in real life to win hearts and minds about thinking about applying a more agile philosophy in these sets of circumstances, where you've got people who have traditionally worked one way and you're wanting them to, at least understand and embrace, a more agile way of working. Johann?
We hardly ever start with a big bang approach. It's best to go and find an environment where people are enthusiastic about change, loves this idea of autonomy and working in teams, and show that it works. There's nothing that sells as well as success.
Absolutely right. Well, any small, kind of incremental uplift that you can give builds that confidence, doesn't it? And really gets things motoring in the right direction. So thank you very much indeed, panel. Suchitra, let's move on. We'll take the next question, please.
Your question from Romain in Milan, Italy. Remote working in the COVID era is proving challenging in our agile environment. Does the panel have any tips on how to keep up communication while working remotely?
Okay, so more a comms issue for when you are distributed. I would say one of the things to do is to, keep up the frequency of the conversation that you have, with your colleagues. Make sure that you make time, for them and make yourself available. So maybe reduce your meeting lengths to 45 minutes. So you've always got a little bit of, green light showing in your calendar on the hour every hour for other people to get hold of you. Lauran, what are your thoughts?
Because we have such nice online tools available, it's to keep that consistency. So stick with the daily stand-ups, but have an online tool. There's so many of them. Jira, Trello are quite frequently used, so that you've still got the visual, you've still got that progress showing every single day. People are still updating the board, and even when the daily stand-up is done, you've then got that board that's available to everybody. I find that's a huge way of helping to keep the communication going. And then creating check-in times where you're going in and saying, is everything okay? Just catching up. So not checking on the work that's been done, but keeping that communication flow going works quite well.
Absolutely. Great advice. Thank you very much, panel. Let's move on. Next question, please, Suchitra.
Another question from Renee in Amsterdam, Netherlands. Our backlog seems to grow and grow, no matter how hard we try to complete items. How can we best prioritize the backlog and keep it under control?
Okay, Johann and then Jeroen.
Discipline is, I suppose, the first answer. But if you say to people, you've got 100 spots in the backlog, which 100 should it be? It makes a hell of a difference. So you cannot allow your backlog to grow to 1,000 items. The other thing that also helps if you're a good product owner is a DSDM technique in terms of saying, what's the musts, what's the shoulds, what's the coulds, and the others we're not going to look at now. Do record them somewhere, but they're not part of that 100 items. And I would really recommend stick to the 100 items. Not everything is of the same level of importance.
Okay, thank you, Johann. Jeroen and then Tumpa.
Yeah, it seems like the situation where your technical depth is growing because in the operation stage you get more and more issues which give you more work to do. And the only thing that really will help is a very structured approach and collaboration between the development and the operations team, and have them together combine what will remove the biggest issues first.
Thank you very much. Tumpa?
I think this ceremonies in Agile, like the sprint retrospective, is very important in this context. Because at the time when we do the sprint planning, we sometimes prioritize things which probably become less priority throughout the actual sprint. And when you do a retrospective at the end of the sprint, you could actually go through all of the backlog items and then reprioritize for the next sprint. That helps you kind of continuously monitor your backlog and bring up things that are not much more priority now.
Yeah, really good advice there. Thank you, Tumpa, and kind of shows the practical application of doing this day to day. I think the other thing that I would say is that it's not helpful, to Johann's point. It's not helpful to have a vast backlog. Just having things on the backlog can be like Linus and his comfort blanket. It actually, over time, it just weighs everything down, and users become disaffected by having things permanently on the backlog. They just lose that confidence actually in them ever coming to fruition. So far better to deal with it on a frequent and a regular and appropriate basis. And I love the idea of really considering those retrospectives as part of that mix. Excellent, very good. Suchitra, let's move on. We'll take the next question, please, if we may.
We have a question from a live viewer, Gary. Is a project approach questionnaire enough to carry out assessment if project can adapt the Agile method?
Okay, so project approach questionnaire, is it enough, Jeroen?
Yes, for me it is enough as a good standard in the Agile project management methodology. Yeah.
And have you found that's allowing everybody to have the right level of input, to have the right level of voice?
Fully agree with you. You do it with the complete team and especially also with the stakeholders in the project. Yes.
Okay,
openness.
So thank you. And openness, yeah, it's a key thing, isn't it? It's like,
yes,
be authentic, be open to it. And, I think it's important sometimes, when we're leading these things, we don't necessarily have to know all of the answers, but what we do really, really need to do is to be able to, understand how we go about it arriving at the decisions that are then taken. So it's an important differential, and it's something that crops up a great deal from the audience in these questions. So Gary, thank you very much for the question and for joining in, and we'll look forward to hearing more from you. Great question. And Suchitra, let's move on. We'll take the next one, please.
Question from Nilash. When sprint planning, is it always essential to get the user stories 100% perfect? Will the user stories and requirements not be updated and refined within the iterative process for the next sprint?
Tumpa, go ahead.
A very, very common issue that all business analysts face. I think it is never possible to get user stories 100% perfect, because when you actually give out the requirement the first time, you just have a vision in mind, and when it'll definitely keep changing and getting refined. So yeah, all business analysts, I think, should be prepared that all the requirements are definitely going to change, and probably it's always for the better, because sometimes you end up getting some much more better requirements. For example, if you are building a product, you might think of a very, very interesting feature when you're actually starting to write a user story, and if it changes later.
Yeah, it's spot on. It's such an iterative process, and it relies on the interaction all of the time, between different individuals as they first of all begin to imagine, and then vision, and from visioning start to think about how would we manifest that actually into the solution. How would we build the functionality that's going to deliver that, and then how do we make it workable? What is that minimum viable product that we're actually trying to produce through all of this? So really great guidance there. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be willing to keep working at it in order to be able to refine it over time. Thank you very much indeed. Suchitra, next question, please.
Sarah from Canberra asks, do you have any tips for simplifying complex projects, or tips on how to better manage complex projects?
Complexity is something which often gets into the hearts and minds of everybody. Johann, you've worked on some pretty complex situations. How have you gone about it?
Divide and conquer. I think the important thing is to understand that not everything in a complex project is of equal importance, number one. And it's really, really important in complex projects to understand what are your dependencies. So those non-functional requirements, because they're the ones that tend to bite you. So look after your non-functional requirements really well. And then think about value from a customer's perspective and start with delivering those items on your backlog. Just something about a previous answer that we had is, if you want to have a simple backlog, and you've got lots of stories, combine them into a epic again, so that you can park them at the bottom of the list.
Okay, thank you very much. And I do think that complexity can sometimes kind of paralyze us. Jeroen, how do you manage?
Well, visualize. Make sure you have the big walls where you can completely show what is the end goal, what are the deliverables that you are going to do, what are you currently working on, and have that so visualized that everyone will see what is happening.
That's an excellent approach. I do think that colleagues will think differently if they can see things and remain refreshed by the visualization of it, rather than just simply relying on either auditory or in text to be able to understand things. The other thing that I would suggest as well is that, and this has been particularly true over the last couple of years, I'm not sure that we're allowing colleagues enough time to be creative, to think creatively, to be able to look at issues from a different perspective. And I often find that when I'm working deep on something which is really complicated, I cannot seem to break through to what the kind of the clarity of thought that's needed to solve the problem. But then when I start thinking about something else, I suddenly have that kind of eureka moment, and actually the genuinely original thought kind of comes through. Johann, what are your thoughts on giving people the time and the space to creatively solve problems?
So, Nick, you mentioned this new way that we're doing things, and we purposefully actually make time in an agile way to be creative and to innovate. And one of the biggest problems with project teams is we think solution, but it's really difficult to to think about good solutions if you don't actually switch off first and first think problem and what's the problem that I'm trying to solve before you think about how am I going to do this. And unfortunately, the traditional agile methods is about delivery. It's not about that innovation step. And I think it's extremely important to add that, whether you want to use jobs to be done, design thinking, design sprints, whatever. But you need to create space for people to actually withdraw from the noise of the day-to-day doing, so that you can actually stand back and say, so what problem am I actually trying to solve?
Excellent advice. Thank you very much indeed. Suchitra, I think we'll take one more question and then we'll go into the focus topic.
Question from Ravi in Delhi, India. I'm new to project management. Do you think it would be beneficial to find a mentor for the first few years of my career in PM?
Okay, all right. Lauran, I think I might know your answer to this, and then Bikram.
Am I a little bit biased? Definitely. First of all, project management is very experience-based. And secondly, I don't think there's anything you can do in business where it won't be of benefit to get a really good mentor. So if you're in a position where you can, I would highly recommend it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Bikram?
Yes, definitely, Nick. We need to have the mentor not only just for the first years or first few years, but for the entire timeline till the time you are a PM. Right? It could be the new methodologies that you are learning. It could be a new tool that you are learning, or anything new that your project demands. there will be a learning throughout. So you need somebody to support you there.
Thank you very much. And Johann?
Just a quick one. Don't think as you get better and better and better, you don't need mentoring. Reverse mentoring is actually a really good thing for senior people also.
I would absolutely endorse that. You know, some of the most tricky, it's not in a project management context, this, but it was in a problem solving context. In a IT support setting, some of the most complex problems have been solved actually by, you know, the most experienced people actually trying to explain the problem that they're having to the most junior people on the team. And through that process, you get this amazing combination of experience and also open-mindedness. I would say open-mindedness, that kind of new way of thinking, that freshness, and that duopoly of purpose is what really produces some incredible work. So I would definitely recommend it. And, you know, if you can, you know, find mentors, keep with them because they're super useful throughout your career. Really, really are. So very good. Thank you very much indeed, panel. What we're going to do is we're going to change gear now a little bit. I'm going to invite Bikram to join me for a conversation all around our focus topic. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, then please do subscribe to our channel if you're getting value from the content of the Level Up shows. That would be really great to see. Leave us a little comment in the chat below on LinkedIn or on YouTube, and we'll follow up with you as well. Now, if you've been following the employment market at any level, you'll know that business analysts are indeed in high demand, as it feels like the whole world is transforming at an incredible pace. Identifying problems with the current business model and designing potential solutions is really at the heart of the role. So it's no wonder that it is attracting some of the most creative and innovative candidates. So Bikram, let's start there if we may. How does a business analyst go about first understanding the current business environment?
All right, Nick, to answer you, definitely business analysts, they're the bridge between the business and the solution. So when I'm saying solution, that is the delivery team. So I'll put it into two aspects here. Number one, in order to understand the organizational side of it, and number two, on their activities, what typical activities they do undertake, right? So the current business environment as a BA, it is not just about your delivery or the project. So you need to know the big picture. You need to know the overall business environment that is there within the organization. It could be your corporate, it could be your program, it could be your project. So unless you see that big picture, it will be difficult for you as a BA to, you know, analyze or to put it into a context. And the second part, in terms of the activities that we know, that is where the BS demand is there in the entire job market, as you put it, Nick. So number one, to understand the scope of the business problems. And of course, there will be the requirements part of it that will be detailed down once you know the business requirement in total. So defining that the scope of the business requirements, that is a must. So within this, you do have your requirements. How do you bring in these requirements? It could be through your waterfall or through your agile with the product backlog, etc. And that is where you also scope and de-scope your requirements as per the needs of the business. Similarly, once you do have the requirements, probably you'll also look into the high value solution that you will be proposing, or this solution approach rather you'll be proposing to your team, so that they can bring in something as a bridge between the current and the future, and it will be, you know, translate into an increased business return. And that is where everybody looks for. Your client, your business team, and your solution team, they are all aligned because of this lady or the gentleman, whom we call it as a business analyst.
Okay, thank you. It's quite a weight to carry. One person's shoulders, you know, kind of thing, is just sort of thinking about, you know, being able to do all of that. So in an agile environment, in an agile organization, things change pretty quickly, and you know, things evolve and it's constantly shifting. So how do business analysts remain sane? You know, I mean, do you have to go into a kind of, you know, a quiet space and lie down for a while? It's quite hard to get your head around all of that. Or is it a matter of kind of reducing that scope and focusing in, once you have an understanding of the landscape, to actually focus in on the journey ahead.
Absolutely. That's a journey in itself. And to know, on a lighter note, to know about their mental status also equally important. As you said, they're overburdened throughout. So one aspect, again, to look into the mindset, as you said, the waterfall versus the agile. When we are talking about this life cycle of the agile environment, and if you see, things are changing quite fast, quite rapidly, right? So that is when they need to bring in with the solution, and they need to propose that as early as possible to the solution team, to the business team, and to have a different buy-ins from everyone. So lots of communication, lots of engagement, that is what comes in. So learning about the requirement in itself from the stakeholders, knowing their artifacts, knowing how they are going to put that document in a place so that they'll be getting a sign-off from different teams. That is something they'll definitely be looking for.
Exactly.
So in a nutshell, combining every aspect there. Sorry, Nick, please go.
Okay. Sorry. No, that's fine. That's fine. So how important would you say the relationship, the working relationship is, to build between the business analyst and, say, the project manager?
Absolutely. And that's a very interesting area, Nick. And quite often we hear about, probably the BA and the PM, they're not going hand in hand. And that is the worst part of any project delivery. So working relationship, they should know their territory. Project manager, somebody who is end-to-end probably managing the project, and the business analyst, who is a bridge, as I said previously, between the business as well as the solution team. So they both look into the bigger picture, but it is ultimately the BA who drives it to the solution team. So it is an overlap role, I would say, between the management aspect of it, or the project management side of it, and also to look into the solution side of it. So in a way, you can think of somebody who is looking into that big picture and taking or bringing down to that granularity, so that the solution team can connect that solution to that of the business, or to that of the business reality. What do you say? Right.
Interesting. And in your experience, just to kind of finish, what makes a good candidate? So if we're thinking about, because this is an exciting area for a career to be able to get into, what attributes would you say a candidate should have to become a business analyst, and what kind of training would you recommend, for them to be able to help them build their career?
So I believe you are asking two things here in terms of who should be part of a BA, and once they have decided that they want to go into this business analyst role, what kind of training or how they go about it, right? So first of all, they should be having that inclination or the passion to solve a problem. So at the end of the day, you are solving that business problem, or you are working on a problem statement and bringing it to a solution. And that requires lots of interaction, lots of interaction. So you should be having that inclination to solve a problem, and to have those day-to-day, communication to anybody and everybody, whomever you can define as your stakeholder. You are going to them and you are connecting with them. All right. And the second side of it, in terms of the training, what kind of training they typically require. There are two aspects again. So one is to have that, the role of the BA, understanding of the role, that discipline of business analyst. They should be quite good into that. There are lots of certifications we do have, including the Agile BA side of it, if somebody would like to jump over to the Agile BA. Plus, the second training could be on the tools. Lots of tools or artifacts that we use. It could be Jira, it could be DevOps, it could be Visio, it could be Excel, anything. That all depends on your organization, or that all depends on how we are dealing with our day-to-day activities as a business analyst.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Some really good advice there. And I think you're right. You have to have you have to have a passion for doing this, okay? Because it's not an easy journey. It's quite a high pressure role to be able to do. So, if you can be swan-like when everybody else is paddling like fury underneath the surface of the water, that's a super helpful thing. And also, if you just enjoy working with people, and creatively
Absolutely.
solving problems, I think those are some two key attributes really for every BA to have. So Bikram, thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate it. Thank you. What we'll do next is we'll go back to the panel now, and we'll take some questions from the audience about the particular focus topic, which is all about being a BA in real life. Suchitra, may we have the first question, please?
Question from Romain Milan, Italy. As a business analyst, I'm often in conflict with various departments because they see me as a document writer rather than an enabler. How can I overcome this issue?
Okay, so it's just really about thinking about the value. Tumpa, how do you position either yourself, or how would you prefer to be positioned? That might be a better question to ask.
First of all, I don't think being a document writer is something bad, because I think documents are really, really important for any project. And, the way we concisely write the requirements in a document is what kind of drives the actual requirements and the project. But definitely, a business analyst is an enabler and probably one of the biggest support to the project manager in terms of getting the project implemented successfully. So maybe, it's always good to start with a document, have something in place for us to kind of go through and understand your understanding of the project and the requirements. And then, probably go from there, have a workflow document, have as much visuals for them as possible for a discussion or to drive a discussion, and have a collaborative session with users, make them understand that you definitely understand the business as much as they do. Probably it'll give them more confidence in the business analyst and their knowledge for a particular specific area.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think I wouldn't underestimate the ability to articulate clearly and without ambiguity what somebody has in their mind. That's an incredible skill to be able to do. And you'll find that over time, it becomes more and more recognized that you are brilliant at it. Jeroen?
Yeah, articulate. That's what I said before as well. Visualize things on the wall, draw the big picture for them, and invite them to come before the big picture to have facilitate the discussion between the departments. Then you will not be just a writer anymore.
Thank you very much. Indeed. Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Thank you, panel. Suchitra, let's take the next question, please. I can see we've got quite a lot to get through.
Question from Priya in Bangalore, India. What are the recommended tools that can be used for Agile BA activities?
Okay, what is in your toolkit as a BA? Tumpa and then Bikram?
I think definitely the most commonly used tool is obviously Confluence, the most preferred tool, because it kind of helps you write and visualize the requirements from the user. Also helps collaborate, because your users can also directly log into Jira, Confluence, and give their inputs or write comments on the user stories, add the acceptance criteria and stuff. I think, yeah, that's one of the tools, definitely.
Okay, thank you very much, Bikram.
Yes, I agree with Tumpa, and definitely it also depends on your organization, how they want to, what all tools they do have, or what all tools you can go for it. I have seen in the organization where they typically they require only the open source, tools, and I have also seen where we do have all this Jira, we do have DevOps, we do have other tools. To take it on. So in one word, I'd say it all depends on your requirements, how you are taking it.
Yeah, I think that's important. I would also consider the audience. So if you're working with people who are often auditory in their nature, then it's good to share the outcome of work with them in a different format. but always consider, how the actual group are going to interact with you as the analyst. What are the tools and techniques that they use first of all? Because during that discovery part, you're trying to get from them, their thinking, their ideas to augment what it is that you have in mind. Jeroen?
Yeah, for the visualization, the OBEA, the war room, is a very good one. But in the COVID situation, I now simply use PowerPoint, what I normally would write down on whiteboards, and PowerPoint, and share it with teams and have the discussion with them that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. And there are so many now different web-based HTML5 widgets and applications and kind of extensions and plugins, that you can use to kind of bring some of this stuff to life. And don't forget, the old-fashioned thing about, to do it the way that you do it and then take a picture and share the picture and scribble on the picture. That all works really, really well, actually. People quite like it when you scribble on things, during a meeting, and then you tidy it up afterwards and it all becomes very beautiful again. So it kind of shows that authenticity, for what you're doing. So really good. Thank you very much. Next question, Suchitra.
Question from Shane in Washington, USA. Does an Agile business analyst need to understand all aspects of the Agile methodology to be successful?
Johann?
Absolutely. And it's important that we don't talk about Agile broadly. You need to understand the method that you're going to use. So I'm a Scrum bigot, and the role of a business analyst in Scrum is completely different to the role of a business analyst in SAFe. So understand your method, and then understand your role very well.
Thank you very much. Lauran?
Thank you. I think that's actually covered it. I also 100% say yes. When you're talking the methodology that you are going to be using as an Agile BA, you've got to understand the methodology. Apart from your role within that method, you are also helping other people understand the method. And unless you have a deep understanding, you can't actually share that.
Agreed. Tumpa, and then we'll come back to Johann.
As a business analyst, I would definitely say we need to understand all aspects. And I guess sometimes a business analyst is not involved, or rather, most of the core project team members feel a business analyst is not required from the starting of the project, from the design phase. But I guess it is really, really important because they are one of the core enablers of the project and also help drive the testing or the sign off or the user acceptance at the end of the project. So business analyst should definitely be across all the different stages of the project and understand if they're not participating, because they have to interact with almost every single member, whether it's a developer or a tester or the actual business user. Understanding is definitely the most important thing.
I completely agree with that. I worked with large telecoms organizations some years ago. We used to have the business analysts in for what we called horizon meetings, and they were not about the projects that they were working on now, but they were about the pipeline of what was coming down. Okay, so from that perspective, it was actually a really, really useful thing. It was just raising the awareness of different projects and programs, that were coming down the line later on, to try and give them that little bit of sense of, what might be coming next. Johann?
But the reason why I use the two examples of methods is because on the one end, it's pretty much the regional business analyst. Nothing is changing, versus then, the business analyst as an enabler of getting people to understand their own requirement and voice it, and supporting the product owner in terms of creating the product backlog. Now, if you talk DSDM, it's sort of in the middle, yeah, and that's where the Agile BA certification is sitting. So the DSDM ABC method is sort of not as fluid as Scrum, but definitely not as rigid as the other method that I mentioned.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much indeed. Suchitra, let's move on. We'll take another question.
Question from Sarah in Canberra. Although I can see their value, are business analysts absolutely needed in a project?
Jeroen and then Tumpa.
Yes, it is absolutely needed. It is a role. It is not a person, but it provides the holistic view. It brings the link between the business and the developers. And if that is not good enough, it won't work. But I've seen situations where the developers have been so holistic that they could perfectly align with the business, so they could also take up that role.
Thank you very much. It's a good point, actually. Tumpa?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's a role, and definitely the one of the most important core roles in any methodology, whether it's agile or waterfall or any project management, any project. Yeah, like you said, and it's probably any person in be a QA or a developer who could also act as a business analyst, but they are the ones who kind of elicit most of the requirements and do all the analysis work. So they should be there right from the beginning to the end of the project.
I agree with that. And on small projects or in those situations where you know that an individual has the right kind of skill set to be able to do that duopoly of roles, just signpost it super clearly so that when you're talking to colleagues, they're understanding which role you're in at a particular time, so that they interact with you in that way. Okay, it's a good way, better way, to be able to keep that authenticity and openness that we were describing a little earlier, into the project and keeping it like that. Very good, interesting question. Thank you very much indeed for that, Suchitra. I think we can fit maybe just 2 or 3 more questions if we move at some pace. So go ahead, please.
Question from Stephen in Chennai, India. What are some of the techniques to conduct internal analysis of an organization?
Okay, now this is quite a tricky question because we're not sure, Stephen, actually, about the scope of it a little bit. Okay, so there's a whole variety of answers to this. Johann, give us your thoughts, and then Jeroen, and then I'll come back in.
Okay, so I'm going to assume that this is about understanding the needs of the organization and how you're going to deliver. We need to create opportunities for people to talk. And it's one of the things that a business analyst must be exceptionally careful of, is that they don't become a stumbling block in the flow of communication within the organization, that they always the gateway of what is needed by the stakeholders in the organization. It's really important, especially in Agile, for the developers to actually have access to users and to customers and to have open and frank conversations.
Thank you, Jeroen. And then Tumpa?
Yeah, it's the value stream mapping approach. What's the real value that the organization brings to their customers or surrounding, and have a clear view on all the supporting processes to deliver that value, and have the key performance indicators, see where the issue is, and see what the changes you want to make and where that will have the impact. And of course, see who are involved in all those processes, so you know your stakeholders.
Thank you very much. And Tumpa?
I would say, just based on an assumption, definitely differs from project. The most successful ones are, just preparing a survey or a questionnaire to begin with, and share it with the stakeholders that you think are the most relevant, and then obviously follow that up with some of the workshops that you could do. Nowadays, there are so many collaborative tools, probably ask people to join, just scribble notes on a wall, throw out their ideas, and then probably that definitely will help. That's what I could think of.
Yeah, thank you very much. One thing that I would say is, if you're a senior leader in an organization, spend some time with the BAs. They actually know an awful lot of where the machine is working well and where the machine is not so great, and where people are pouring treacle in the machine and where they're helping the machine to function better. So it's actually a really useful community of people. And as a BA, over time, you'll find that your influence becomes way greater than necessarily your business card may suggest. Okay? Because if you're honest and if you're authentic and you speak with clarity, having looked at the real day-to-day, issues that are happening in an organization, then that creates, opportunity for improvement and opportunity for change. So stick with it. It's a brilliant thing to be able to do. And as I say, if you're a senior leader, really great community to tap into. They'll tell you the truth for sure. Excellent. Let's move on. Suchitra, I think we can fit 2 more questions in.
Question from Amy in Melbourne, Australia. What are the key skills required for a business analyst?
Okay, so skills panel. What would you say are the key requirements for somebody that was embarking on a career to be a business analyst? The first thing that I would say is to be yourself, to be authentic. Tumpa, what would you add into that?
I think it could be like a very, very broad skill set. But yeah, the most important thing is communication, being open, being able to ask, the dumbest of the questions just to get the right answers. And obviously, like one of the questions earlier where someone mentioned being a document writer as not a good thing, but a very good documentation skills, articulation is really one of the key skills that a BA should have. And probably some experience with creating workflows, real diagrams, which helps kind of gain confidence from the business.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And on that communication side, actively listen to people and practice that active listening, and then being able to play back to somebody, what your understanding is of what it is that they've said, to check that understanding. That's a really useful kind of technique to be able to develop. So excellent, thank you. Suchitra, let's take the next question, please.
Question from Kerry in Dubai. What are the best practices to follow while writing a use case?
Okay, so best practices panel in actually authoring the use case. What are your thoughts on that? Jeroen?
Well, a use case that is a process trigger-based and follow the use case through all the organization, who are involved, what is being touched, and where is the use case finished.
Okay, so it's kind of an end-to-end journey. And Lauran?
Yeah.
I think it's also quite important that they establish the what level. Is it a high-level use case that is required, or is there that detail required to match it up with where it's being used within the space of the project?
Hey, thank you very much. Getting that level right, and the level of detail that underpins it is super important. So look, some really good questions today, everybody. Thank you to our producers who are online interacting with us. Great job, panel. So I'm just going to invite you for your closing remarks. Bikram, we'll start with you and then we'll go to Lauran next.
Thank you, Nick. It was interesting. I believe this was my 3rd one, and being the focus, taking on that focus topic, that was also good, and good to meet all of my colleagues here. Thank you, Nick.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Bikram. Lauran, I know you've been multitasking today because you've actually got, a group of folks learning with you this week as well. So you've been kind of doing this and working with them for the rest of the day. So let's hear your closing remarks, then we'll go to Tumpa. So I think we'll come back to Lauran in a few moments. Tumpa, go ahead, and then Johann.
Nick, thanks again, and thanks for inviting me. It was really good to share some of my own experiences from all the work that I've done till date. And really, really glad that I could be part of this panel and hear some of the great experiences that all the panel members have. And thanks for inviting me again.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to Level Up. It's a great contribution, so we really appreciate it. Johann and then Jeroen.
Yeah, I think as a business analyst, the most important thing to remember is that you're a facilitator of understanding. You're not a creator of an opinion. The more transparent you become in the process, the more effective you are to everybody involved. Your job is glue. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. That's really good. I appreciate that. Jeroen and then Lauran.
Yeah, nice discussion. There was only one question that I missed, where in the bureaucracy, finance want every cent to be accounted before they begin with the project. And I had a similar situation for a procurement project where the chief procurement officer was also the executive of the board. I agreed with them that, if there was a change really needed, it would be discussed in the board there, and the CPO was the one making the decision. At the end of the project, he had a conflict. There were 2 items predefined that must be done, but were useless and were not done. 3 other things were done. He didn't want to pay my fee for those. But I said, well, here are the meeting minutes of the project board, and I see your signature behind it, and there the decision was made. And so use the bureaucracy to fight the bureaucracy. So I had it formalized and got the right decision.
It's important though, isn't it? It is important to be able to provide accountability, ultimate accountability, for things. So I agree with that. So thank you very much. Lauran, your closing remarks, then we'll hear from Suchitra.
Just thank you again. It's been a super show. And once again, I'd just like to emphasize, in my opinion, there isn't a decision on a project that gets made without input from the BA. And I really feel that people need to realize how big a role it is. And I would imagine maybe start rethinking who goes into that BA role. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Lauran. And Suchitra, quite an interesting discovery really for us today about the importance of the role of the BA, and just that they really do kind of, make the magic happen, don't they?
Yeah, Nick, I agree. Great show. I mean, we've had so many more questions which we should pick up again. But I'm quite sure that a lot of BAs and aspiring BAs would have 100% have benefited from the show. So it's been great to have everyone and listen to all your views. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll be returning to the world of business analysis in the new year, in 2022, as we move from kind of current shows into the production series. So thank you very much indeed, panel. Great job. Now, I'm sure if you've been inspired by our panel today and you're getting value from our content, then you'd like to leave a comment below in the chat on YouTube or on LinkedIn. And please do help spread the word by going over to the APMG International YouTube channel and sharing, the content from there, the recordings from there. That would be super helpful. So thank you. Coming up a little bit later on today at 1 p.m. GMT, we dive into the world of leadership, what makes a good leader, how to become one, and how to lead in an agile environment when everything is moving. There are more moving parts than there are things which are standing still. Next Monday, on the 13th of December, at this time, we'll be exploring portfolio management. Is it really one of the dark arts? Or is it actually a regular focus and prioritization is a way to keep up the momentum in organizations and ensure value delivery overall? Later the same day, we're going to get into a meaningful discussion all about data privacy, as more of us resent having our data exploited, and what the trends are that we need to be aware of as business professionals. So subscribe to the show. We'll send you a personal summary of what's coming up and how you can join us here on the panel and level up your career with APMG. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.